Jocko Sims, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. It means a lot to me, man. You're such an incredible actor, and you're a master of television. I mean, I've just watched you appear in so many different things, and especially it's something I've discussed with a lot of actors on this podcast, procedural type shows. Some of those dialogue can be really hard to deliver, but you have such a way of making it so authentic, and I have such an appreciation for all your work.
Thank you.
And I've watched you on Crash, New Amsterdam, The Last Ship, man. Yeah. You've been crushing the game.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so funny to see how much time has gone by. It's a blur. I remember my first, I don't know what quite we'll get into, but what comes to mind when you say that is my first audition and how nervous I was. And it really, really, truly feels like it was last year.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
It's been 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas.
Okay. What
grew
part?
up in San Antonio, Texas. I was born in Houston. And I wanted to be a doctor. Oddly enough,
no way.
And and I even had a medical symbol in my high school ring, and I got to college in
Texas.
I got to college. My first year, I went to University of Houston. Now, side note, I'd always been very creative.
Yeah. Were your parents artists?
Creating, they were at first. My dad was in a band. My mom was also in a band, and she competed in pageants. And it's so long ago. In fact, that was even before I was born. So they were really young when they were doing that stuff. And so I'd always had this bug for entertaining just for fun.
Yeah.
I'd make people laugh. I'd dance. I'd create music. And my mom would always tell me, that I should take some classes. And I don't know. I just couldn't see myself actually doing it, and I was into science and nerdy stuff.
So you didn't do like drama in high school?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. Yeah, no, not until I got to college. So I get to college, and I realize there. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in school now for the next 12 years to study.
You're doing the pre-med track.
Yeah. I was going to maybe even be a dentist And I was just like, so I took a theater course.
Wow.
Incidentally, my mother, who I lived with mainly, my parents divorced when I was young, and my mom had moved from San Antonio to Los Angeles.
Wow.
And so I went to Houston, went to live with my dad, actually, and went to college my first year there. And I said, let me try this theater thing out. I took the class, fell in love with, theater and acting, and called my mom and said, hey, I'd like to come live with you in Los Angeles and pursue it. She said, come on home, baby.
Wow, that's amazing.
And,
Way to go, Mom.
Yeah. And so I got to go there and stayed with her and finished up at UCLA.
Oh, wow. I did a little time there myself.
Yeah.
UCLA School of Film and Television.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom Orth.
Yeah. Merle Schreiberman. And
yeah. Wow. So what we're going to age ourselves here, but what?
Well, so I ended up leaving, going to NYU.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year did you go?
What year did I graduate?
Did you go there in UCLA?
Oh, God. It was like 2006.
Okay, 2006. So I arrived in 2002.
Wow.
Yeah, because I transferred in. So 2002 and then finished up in 2004.
So talk to me about that transition. Was that tough? Like, going from not having acted to immersing yourself fully into this craft?
I was nervous going into that theater at University of Houston. I remember the first lady I talked to, I wish I could remember her name, but she wasn't the vocal teacher, but I think she might have been the administrator there in the department or something. And I walked in and I said, there's this perception, you think that, actors are something especially when you're attempting to be a part of that it's something you are not.
Yeah.
It's something other. And they welcomed me with open arms, not experienced. I thought that I should have done many plays in high school.
Right.
And she's like, oh, you want to be that? Great, fantastic. Let me give you a tour of the theater. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I got to see a class and see all this stuff, and I was like, gosh, these people are really nice.
Amazing.
And that was very crucial and important. Had I walked in and they had their noses in the air and said,
that was my experience at NYU.
yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. You have these certain schools that are difficult to get in, and then sometimes once you're in, you have that thing.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate. I did University of Houston there, where they were very welcoming, and then I went to Santa Monica College because you had to have, which is in California.
Yeah.
And I did theater. That amazing theater experience there, by the way. And I did my first plays there, and it's just I had really good theater school experiences, and I know a lot of people out there have not, but I was very, very fortunate.
That's
so
incredible.
I did 5 years of studying 3 different schools and just loved it. Loved my teachers. Made lifelong friends, and it was a great transition for me into the business.
Did UCLA have a showcase built in for you guys?
I did not participate in a show. I think they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I remember hearing some interesting stories about those showcases not going so well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There was a story. There was a story one of our teachers told us about Tim Robbins, who had I don't know why I'm telling this.
No, do it.
But he had prepared these scenes with his scene partner, and legend has it that once his scene partner, there was having some sort of struggle or something backstage, and all the agents and managers from the different agencies were there.
Yeah.
And he just walked out on the stage and left his scene partner there and just did a monologue on his own. And lo and behold, he eventually becomes Tim Robbins.
Of course.
And so, I think I heard it was things like that were just like, let's just,
Yeah.
And so they just focused on theater. And yeah, it was great. It was a great experience.
When you graduated, you wanted to stay in Los Angeles?
Yes, for me, once I decided to be an actor, I said I'm gonna go, for the gusto. It's got to be film, television. I definitely learned and knew that it was important to have a theater background and get on that stage, and yeah, I haven't looked back since.
That's amazing. Talk to me about that first audition. Do you remember what it was for?
Absolutely. Like it was yesterday. It was for a show on ABC called 10-8. It was a short-lived cop show.
Got it.
And I auditioned to play a DJ. And but this DJ was emceeing an underground fight at a warehouse.
Wow.
Now, at this point, I know nothing about auditioning.
Yeah.
I walked in with props. Don't do that, actors. Even though it got me the job. I always say that if I auditioned for that today, I would not have gotten that job.
Yeah.
I think it was because I just didn't know what I was doing
Right.
and gave it my all, And I was supposed to introduce these two fighters. The names I don't remember. These two women were fighting, and I just went over the top with the introduction like a crazy sports announcer, just
Ric Flair style.
Yeah, and it didn't call for any of that. You know,
Yeah.
if you see these roles, these co-star roles, it's just like it's not about that.
Yeah.
But I just took it, and so Judith Holstra, I think, was the casting director, and she said I was getting a call back, and I was like, oh my God, I got a call, like, wow. And I go, and there's a ton of people, ton of actors in there. And so, again, I had my headphones and stuff, and I walk in there, and in this, room full of producers, and I do this again, and they're laughing. It's not a funny role, and they're just going, and they would just like ate it up. And it was so loud, and I walk out, and I just remember looking at everybody's faces, looking like, what did you do in there? Because they could hear the ruckus, noises, and laughter.
They heard you booking the role.
So I go home, and that agent, who I was lucky enough to have at the time, he called me, and he left a message. He said, Jocko, you're going to be on the show. You're going to be on ABC. You're being Taft-Hartley, and I didn't know what that was at the time, and that meant that if you're not in the union,
they had to induct you and pay.
They had to pay a little extra money, and you're automatically going to be in the union. And that was my first audition. And then I had my second audition and booked that. I was like, I'm supposed to be doing
Your
this.
batting average is incredible, man.
It was great. Now, it didn't always go like that.
Yeah.
And that could, affect you. It didn't affect me. I always remained humble and appreciative of every thanks to my mom and my dad who had a part in raising me. And I don't know, I never I'm still affected. I'm still starstruck when I go on set. I'm still that little boy from San Antonio, Texas. And I get nervous and I get clammy hand. Lucy Liu directed one of our episodes a few episodes ago.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God.
Kill
that's
Bill.
Lucy Liu. Yeah, Kill Bill. Everything. And so, she eventually, she was just great from the start. And it's great because when we have our guest directors like her come in, she had seen the show.
Yeah.
And she'd become a fan by then. So I'll never get used to that. I think it's really amazing. It's a good feeling.
Well, I'm curious to ask you, when you go from, not doing much acting then having all these plays and auditioning success, in LA particularly, there's a lot of procedural work, and those auditions are very different than like something for like Dawn of Planet of the Apes.
Sure.
How did you kind of figure your way through these auditions that have vernacular exposition, exposition. How were you able to ground yourself in those worlds? Were you working with a coach or?
No. I'm always of the school of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I worked with one coach, and it was Leslie Kahn one time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, I was probably 14 years into working. It was on for the role I'm Dying Up Here.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey was
Love
executive producer.
Yeah.
I had already had the part, but I wanted to do it justice. I played a Vietnam War vet.
Yeah.
And
I
was
that
like,
episode.
And I'm like, I want to do this right. I'm going to get a coach. And that was great. That was a great experience. I've always been nervous about that. Incidentally, I'd been coaching actors because I started booking these jobs, and a lot of my friends weren't, and I felt bad. And I'm like, let's try to work this out. Let's figure out what I figured out in the room, which is an entirely different beast than being. That room is so odd.
Yeah.
That audition, and it's not like being on set where you're comfortable and you have the job.
It can be a really hostile experience.
Yeah. And what's odd about it though is that, and this is what I've tried to help my friends with who weren't as fortunate to understand, is that when you walk in, that casting director really, really wants you to be the and they may not always treat you kind.
Yeah.
They may be exhausted from the day. They may already have, it's frustrating. Sometimes the studio may have an offer out to an actor and they still have to do this, and they're upset because they have some actors, they may really, really like you.
Right.
So it's all sorts of things that, we got to kind of get out of our head and get in that room and do that. But it's, I can't remember. You'd asked something, and I just went off on a tangent here.
Oh, no, I think you answered it. But let's talk about Crash. What was it like working with Dennis Hopper?
Oh, my gosh.
Speaking of being starstruck.
That was incredible. I've had some really interesting experiences. And I would say that with Crash, I auditioned for that show having not read the pilot because I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And the agency
sometimes
never
they
sent
don't give it
to
to you.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it incidentally was an accident. So I get the scenes and I do it. And you have the process of auditioning for the casting director, and then you go in for producers, and then there's the network test, and then the studio test.
Wow.
So I made it all the way to the network test, and I thought I had done a good job, and I went outside, and one other actor, he was Brian T., who's now I think on Chicago Med, and he ended up on Crash. This is back in 2008, by the way. He said, "Hey, yo, if I find out I'm coming back, I got a call back." And he's like, "Did you?" I was like, "Oh, I haven't heard anything." I was like, "Oh." He said, "Well, maybe I'm sure you'll get one." And so I went home. I'm calling the agents. I'm like, did it end there? Like, we should hear. It's not going further. At this point, they tell you either way. And I'm like, gosh. And it's like, no, we haven't heard anything. And I just lay down on my bed because I'm just like mentally exhausted through this process. And the studio test was going to be like a couple of hours later at the same location. And I'm just at home, and I'm like, calling them like nothing. And I'm like, I'm just going to go back. And because we haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
And I get in the car, get on the freeway, I'm driving, I get a call and saying, "Oh, they called one of the agent's cell phones, and she was at lunch at the time. She didn't get it. You should go back." I was like, "I'm already on my way back."
Wow.
And I had gotten that call back, and thank God I, had the mind to just put all that there and go. and then booked that role. And that was Starz first, Starz the network. It was their first original
content.
Yeah.
And it was like that and Party Down at the same
Party
time.
Down.
Yeah, I love Party Down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was, we were 13 episodes on the air.
Wow.
So booking that pilot was booking a full season.
Yeah.
And
was that your first time booking a full season?
That was my first time booking a pilot. Well, I booked a pilot before that didn't. Well, it went for 9 episodes, and I didn't get picked up with the pilot, and that was my first time in New York. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So I get out there, and I have this role, but we don't have the main character who I was going to play opposite. And it was the role of Ben Cinders. And we said, well, we found out I'm there in New Mexico ready to film. And I find out that it's going to be either Tom Sizemore, Harvey Keitel, Val Kilmer, or Dennis Hopper. I'm like,
God.
I will take any one of those. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And secretly, I kind of hoped it would be Dennis Hopper. And when he said yes, I was just like, I cannot believe what's happening. By the way, at the time, my favorite movie was Crash.
Yeah.
I remember watching that movie, leaving the theater crying, and I never imagined that I would be on the series and playing opposite Dennis Hopper. It was incredible.
Was that like a really cool boot camp experience to get to work with him, and be opposite him so many times?
Yeah, he was great. At the time, he was battling, and I didn't know, he was battling
right before
prostate cancer.
Yeah.
And, he would show, I knew something was off, something was wrong. He would show up sick sometimes, and he never missed a day. Wow. He was never late and was literally dying during this time. And he wanted to be on this show. He wanted to work. And I always had a strong work ethic when it came to this. And so, he just solidified that this is the way to be. This is how you get your Academy Award nomination.
Totally.
Well deserved. Just a brilliant, artistic, very passionate, funny man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you did The Last Ship after that, and you got 5 seasons out of that, right?
Yes. Now, this is why I say it wasn't always, roses.
Yeah, talk to me.
After that show, so I'm on the show Crash, which maybe 2 people watched, my mom and you. And so nobody's watching.
Yeah.
I'm not, for 2 years, I'm in New Mexico. I'm not.
You guys didn't shoot that in L.A.?
We shot in New Mexico for L.A.
Yeah. And
I'm not auditioning. So all the momentum I had built up leading up from graduating from college 2004 to those 4 years was slowed, and I could not get arrested. I couldn't get into some rooms. Wow. I had to start over.
Even having that credential?
Even that credential, nobody cared. I'd go in a room and casting directors would be like, "Oh, so how's that show going?" I'm like, and I'm like, "Oh, it's canceled. Dennis Hopper's dead.
Yeah.
The show's over." And oh yeah, that's right, they did kill. Okay, yeah, it was that sort of thing, and I'm just like,
no
wow.
mercy.
So I thought that was it. For me. And so I had to start over. It took me 5 years to book another series.
Wow.
And that was The Last Ship.
Talk to me. What were you doing during those 5 years?
Those 5 years, I still was booking guest stars.
Yeah.
I had done, Grey's Anatomy, done an episode of Grey's Anatomy and a couple of episode of Bones and just sporadically here. But it was tough. Money was running low.
Yeah.
And it got really difficult. And I actually had to move back with Mom. And I was there for 7 months. And I got reinvigorated and I got inspired. And I did something silly. I went and got a new apartment. New, nice Los Angeles 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
And I had enough money to pay for maybe 1 month's rent. And, breaking a lease is not a good thing.
Totally.
But I did it on faith. I don't know why. I look back at it, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
And then The Last Ship came along. And The Last Ship came along, it was 5 episodes as a guest star. I go on, and they keep me for 5 years. Wow. It turned into a series regular role, and that was crazy. I learned a lot in that time between Crash and The Last Ship. Number one, I learned how easy, as an actor, you're a pawn.
Yeah.
So what can you do to not be a pawn? Well, you can write, you can produce, you can create content. It's not an easy pathway, but if you can be at the helm of the ship, pun intended, then you can potentially have a little more control over your career. So all throughout, I became while on the last show.
Yeah.
See, this is when I was on Crash. I was comfortable. Put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything else. I'm going to be an actor. And meanwhile, here comes Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I just wasn't hungry enough. So when I got on the last ship, I was the only actor on that show that worked on, I think, 13 episodes of other shows while I was on the last ship.
Wow.
I went and did a stint on Masters of Sex which was great. I did 7 episodes of that. The
Michael
network,
Sheen.
yeah, and it was great. And Showtime tried to push for me to be nominated for an Emmy, which was the pre-nomination experience, and it was just great. I love that role, and initially the network that I was on for the last ship said you can only do 3 episodes of another show. And I said, no, then we'll try to find a way to get out of my contract then. And potentially, and we're talking, for 7 episodes as a guest star on one show versus years as a series regular is big difference in money that I was willing to walk away from, because you have a different type of eyes on this show. You have Emmy nominations on this show, and I'm like, I'll do these 7 episodes and then go try to find work later. And they said okay, and they let me go do those 7 episodes and keep my job on the last ship. And I did 2 pilots. And that's unheard. But I just stayed on my folks. I stayed on my people. I said, I can't have another experience coming off of the last ship that I had off of Crash. I can't have it take me, 5 years. I'm getting older.
Yeah.
I got to go from this job to another one, and that hunger made a huge difference. And why I think that we were able to, seamlessly move on to the next job, which is New Amsterdam.
Yeah. So how soon after, last ship, it was 5 seasons, right? Did you have that come your way?
Yeah, and in fact, even prior to this, I had done a pilot for Amazon. It was a comedy pilot, and because last ship we went on a hiatus for a little while.
Yeah,
and there was like a spontaneous hiatus, and we weren't sure if we were going to keep going. So we told the network, hey, we don't know what's going on in the future.
I got to work.
It kind of let me go do another pilot, and that pilot didn't go. So that was 2017. And the following year, when the last ship ended, I go out the pilot season, and I don't know what was happening to me, but I was in this in rap music we call it a bag. Or rap, I was in my bag.
Yeah,
I was in this interesting bag where I was doing the best auditions ever of my career, and I got to pick and choose which ones I was going to be called back for. I was so busy. It was my first pilot season in 5 years.
Wow.
So and that was this to 2018.
Wow.
And the agency and my manager, we were just like, what is, I said, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. And this came along, and we got to choose, whether or not we were going to test for this one or another. And this one just spoke to us. It was a great show from the beginning, New Amsterdam.
And I'm so curious to ask you, and this is something I think a lot of actors struggle with, like when you have a show that's in the medical world and there's been an ER and there's been a Grey's Anatomy, how do you find as an actor to bring truth to something without recreating something you've seen before?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, it starts with the writing.
Yeah.
And believing in it. And what was great about this show and what made it stand out differently than the rest of them was that this one was based on a true story. This one is based on a book by Dr. Eric Mannheimer, who was the medical director at Bellevue Hospital for 15 years. So he saw some extraordinary and very amazing and some very sad things during that time, obviously. And for those of you who don't know, Bellevue Hospital has a reputation for being this psych ward, but it is actually the first public hospital in America, the oldest public hospital, still standing, state of the art.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And he saw a lot of things. He saw the red tape that he'd have to jump through. The bureaucracy of how terrible it was, and he wrote a book about it. It was a great book. It's called 12 Patients: Life and Death at Bellevue. And David Schulner, our creator of the show, he read that book and said, "This is what I want to do," because he was trying to figure out what he's going to do next. He's like, "I don't, everybody's doing superhero stuff as far as this television series that was really hot when he started writing it." And he's like, I want to write about something that people are talking about at their dining room tables, and healthcare is one of the biggest issues here in this country for obvious reasons. So that's what's cool. And then it had some humor, and it had some jarring moments in the pilot, racially jarring moments, and I was like, "This is good."
And it's a great really cast. Good. You, Ryan Egel, you guys seem like you have such a great rapport.
They're fantastic. Some of the Teamsters or drivers were like, "You guys are the nicest bunch," and they've been in the business for 20, 30 years, and they're like, "We've not seen," and a lot of crew members kept saying that, and it finally occurred to me is that we're doing a show about compassionate people, and the producers cast compassionate, nice people to be around.
Yeah.
And it is just a joy. Everybody's amazing. Everybody's really nice.
That's incredible to hear, man. You do such great work, and you have such power and presence, and and that's such a natural thing for you, and it's so awesome to watch you do that. And I'm curious to ask you, man, during those 5 years when you were struggling, a lot of actors out there listening are struggling, and guest star auditions can be so tough because you don't know a lot, you don't get the script, and you're kind of there to support the main cast. What do you think makes for a great audition? Or what helps?
Yeah.
I know that's a loaded question.
No, it's fine. It's great. I think it's a great question. And I think for me, let's take, for example, the auditions, particularly the co-star auditions where you have like one or two lines.
Yeah.
What the hell do you do?
Yeah.
How do you stand out? For me, that's the exciting part, because it's like, how can I stand out with these two lines and be different than everyone else, but leave knowing that I left an impression, whether or not I've gotten the part. I've auditioned, and don't let me go too far on a tangent.
No.
Reminded me that I've auditioned for a casting director, Jamie Radofsky, and who I adore. And she gave me a lot of confidence, because I went in, auditioned for, I got to audition for this pilot way too early in my career. I don't know, it's like the lead of a show on ABC, which was never going to get. And I go in and I destroy the audition, and she said, "Wow." She said, "That was incredible." She said, "That's the best I've seen it done." She said, "I'm not going to give you a call back because you're not right for the part, but wow." And I'm just like, watching my dreams crumble right there. I'm like, wait, I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
And it was great, but I made a lasting impression on her. 10 years later, she cast me in my second favorite role of all time, which was Masters of Sex.
Wow.
And she had been a fan all of that time, but it was the right role, the right time. And it did. But the key, getting back to what we're saying, is trying to find something interesting to do that makes a lasting impression. And sometimes if you're talking and you're able to show your hands, and if you're thinking, your character has to think for a second, and you think, and you just do a little twitch, like just mess with your right before you say something. I like to do these little breathing before and after, during the line, if it requires that, for example, or just a little, something that brings it to life.
Yeah. And
you can always feel when they go, they something happens, cathartic or something in the room where they're jarred out of what the job is doing, what their job that they're there to do, and it's like, wow. And sometimes they don't know it's that you did this, but it's like something stuck with them, and they go, "Damn, that kid's good," next. And they're gonna remember. I made a lot of fans along the way.
Just doing good work. Yeah.
Now I'm telling you, the phone is ringing.
Yeah.
Because the stars are aligned now. But if I had gone in defeat, which I have, I've had bad auditions. I've gone in defeated. I've gone in and messed myself up out of getting parts.
Yeah.
So and that happened. So if I had done that the majority of the time, I most certainly wouldn't be where I am today.
And how did you keep yourself from getting disillusioned? Because I know a lot of actors that didn't have that chance to have a crash and are still auditioning. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have from preventing to get disillusioned? And because it can be so hard, just years of auditioning and nothing. How did you stay positive?
I only focused on my victories, and let me define victories. I have things that I remember that may, at first glance seem extremely insignificant.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget being at Santa Monica College when my teacher, Adrian Harrop, had said to me, she had pulled a couple of actors aside after, we had been in our class for a while. And she said, I want you guys to audition for Juilliard. And we know that Juilliard's the mecca, of acting schools, and we're like, okay, so I'm in this process now of
Did you do
trying
it?
to find. I had auditioned for Juilliard
Yeah.
a couple times, didn't get into Juilliard.
Me either.
That's a lot. Most of
Brutal audition.
and that's brutal. That was that whole process.
That was the most soul defeating moment of my life. Walking out of that Juilliard audition, I was just like, I've gotten denied for bigger parts, and this hurt more.
It's too much. That pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah. I see. I compartmentalize that. That's not something I've ever focused on.
Yeah.
Except for the one thing that kind of stuck with me is that my first audition was better than my second.
Yeah.
Like my second year that I went and auditioned. Oh, am I getting worse? So, but that happens. But so I before we even get to the audition process, I kind of asked her. I said, why did you choose me to, what's going on here? Because I needed to make sure I'm doing the right thing. This was my second year in acting classes.
Yeah.
And she said, that's a good question. She said, you could be great. She said, you're not yet, but she said you could be. And I see that. I will never forget that. Wow. So when I'm going in and I don't have a great audition, I just said, I could be great.
Yeah.
And the chair of the theater department at Santa Monica College believes it. And she directed plays there with beasts of actors that I watched, and I was like, I could only dream of doing, and eventually I did get to do those plays.
Yeah.
And of being in those, and I admire and look up to them. If she's saying that I could be great, but I'm not yet, then I'm just not yet. And I just didn't do it. And so I just remembered those things, and there were so many of those things, so many people, here and there in your life, a casting director, Jamie Rudowski said, wow, that was amazing. You're not going to get the part. But we don't all have the luxury to be told you're not getting a part because you're not right for it. And not right could be a number of things.
Totally.
You're white. You're black. You're short. You have not enough credits, and the network's never going to believe in you.
Mustache
to do
doesn't align the right way.
Right. So not right can mean a number of things, but to know you did a good job, I never forgot that. So that when I saw her 10 years later, when I walked in, the show Masters of Sex was cast by Risa Bremen, who's another casting director. And so I didn't even know Jamie was a part of that.
Yeah.
But when I walked in and saw her face after 10 years, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, she said, how are you? She knew I was coming in.
Yeah.
I was like, my gosh. And it had the audition of my life. But those mini victories, those things that are confirmations that you are good. You are here for a reason. You're auditioning for Juilliard for a reason. Not everybody's going to get in, and some people got in and hated it and left.
Yeah.
And some, it's just everybody's got a different path, but it's cliche, but you got to really believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no space or time to doubt yourself, because while you're doubting yourself, The Last Ship is another quick example again, where I was supposed to play this tough as nails Lieutenant Burke, and I'm yelling at the other sailors and trying to get them into shape for basically what it turns out to be World War III. And I'm just like, that's not me. So I was struggling with it. I was reading with my friend, actress Arlene Tour from Crash, actually.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't want to go. I don't want to go. It's just not. She's like, get it together. Come on, man. You got this. And I'm like, I was like, that's what I do. I coach actors. You don't use that on me. I don't think I'm, that's not. She's like, I just go. And I go in, and then I don't do well in the audition, mind you. And the casting director says, oh, don't worry. So just go again. Don't worry. Everybody's struggling with it.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. thank God she said that.
Yeah.
We don't all get to know that. I could just have left and go, whoa. And, 3 weeks go by before I get that call, and they say, you were great, and we'd love to work with you. And Michael Bay's executive producer of the show.
Brad
and I'm just
Fuller,
like, what?
yeah.
And then go on, and then that turned it turned into 5 years. That was 5 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So I could have talked myself out of that
And
thing.
look at
You
it.
can't listen to that stuff. You really can't listen to that voice. That's the biggest hater.
That's
I tell
huge.
you, that biggest hater you have
Yeah.
in your life is the voice that says, you're not good enough for this.
I know. You got to learn to turn it off.
Yeah, man, just enjoy it and enjoy that ride and work. That's the other one.
Love that wisdom. Final 2 questions, Jocko.
Yeah.
What's next for you? I know you guys have another season going, but do you have any personal projects or anything cool you're working on that you can?
I want to direct and produce, and now that the good news is that we've got 3 seasons of New Amsterdam.
Congratulations.
Coming up, which is insane.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a chance to direct an episode.
I'm
in the
sure you
future.
will.
And but yeah, we get very little time off, so
You guys are 10 out of 12.
we're 10 out of the months.
Yeah.
And so it's great. It's like this is 17 years, man. I've been waiting for this type of job, but now that we have it, to have that short window, so the opportunities to do other things aren't there as much.
Yeah.
But if I could, in that 2 months, find a way to direct something or do a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Because the majority, I would say 99% of the stuff that I have done on TV over all those years has just been drama.
You're close
drama,
with
drama.
Tiffany, right?
Tiffany Haddish?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
She's a friend. She's
Yeah.
so funny. I would love to do something with her.
Yeah, I totally see that.
So I got to get some kind. This years of drama is just like, that's why I'm never on set. I'm never serious.
Yeah,
and sometimes Janet will be like, "Come on, man, you got to get this. Let's go. Let's do this." Because I'm just clowning around, and I don't know. I like to have fun. So I want to do some comedies. I want to direct. I want to write. I want to produce, and we'll see what happens.
And what's inspiring you? Final question.
Artistically,
Yeah, musically, creatively, performatively.
It's really what my biggest inspiration creatively of late has been. Well, actually, for a while. Being around funny people,
Yeah.
and I annoy my friends because I'm that guy who's like, oh wait, that could be a thing, and I'm just going to my phone, and it's like, dude, can we just enjoy ourselves right now? I'll be around some very, very funny people. The other thing is I'm going back and watching movies that I loved over the last 20, 25 years, from the 90s and whatnot. And I watched The Sixth Sense recently, and I watched Primal Fear with Edward Norton and Richard Gere, and these things are like sparking ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm just going on my phone. I'm like, God, here's a movie idea for these things. So watching older movies that I loved and fell in love with, even as a kid, going back to Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands and stuff. It's like reinvigorating my imagination again.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, Jocko Sims, thanks so much for being here, man. It means so much, and I'm so excited. And there's so many amazing things in store for you. I'm so excited for what the future is doing and what you're doing on New Amsterdam, man. It's incredible work, and you're such a great guy.
I appreciate that so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
And I think the service that you're doing to this wonderful pool of human beings is very much needed and very good.
Yeah.
So thank you. Please continue what you do. And I want to come back again.
Please.
I would love to share some more stories.
I would love to. We'll do it on when you have one of those 2 months off.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
All right. Much love, Jocko.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Good? Yeah? All right, cool.